The order is already in motion by the time anyone becomes aware of it. It exists first as a sequence of words arranged in a familiar structure, not urgent, not dramatic. Its language is clean, standardized, stripped of ambiguity. It carries no explanation required. It does not justify itself. It does not invite interpretation. It simply states what is to be done and when. The paper is stamped. The ink dries. Copies are made. It moves through corridors designed for this purpose, passed from one set of hands to another without pause. Each transfer is acknowledged. Each acknowledgement is recorded. The process is practiced enough to be invisible. No one lingers over the text. No one reads beyond what is necessary to confirm compliance. The words are not examined for meaning, only for accuracy. The order is correct. It is formatted properly. It bears the appropriate marking. That is enough. Telephones ring and stop ringing. Messages are relayed with precision. Numbers are repeated to ensure consistency. Times are synchronized. Each step confirms the previous one. Each confirmation narrows the space for deviation. The order becomes less a decision than a condition, something that exists independently of the people now responsible for carrying it forward. There is no moment where the order is weighed. There is only the moment where it is received, and the moment where it is transmitted again. Those who pass it along do so without urgency, but without delay. This is how it is meant to function. Speed without haste. Authority without presence. The origin of the order is already distant, its source abstracted by repetition. What remains is the structure that carries it. The language is final in its tone. Verbs are precise. There is no conditional phrasing, no allowance for adjustment. The order assumes the world will accommodate it. It presumes alignment. It presumes that reality, when encountered, will comply. Clocks are consulted. Schedules are adjusted. Existing routines absorb the new instruction seamlessly. It does not disrupt the system. It activates it. Preparations begin quietly, almost automatically. Movements align themselves to the timeline the order imposes. Nothing in the process suggests danger. Nothing signals urgency beyond the normal rhythm of operation. This is not an emergency. It is procedure. The order continues downward, unchanged. Each repetition removes it further from scrutiny. Each handoff reinforces its legitimacy. By the time it reaches those who will act on it, it no longer feels like a decision at all. It feels like something that has always been intended to happen. There is no visible resistance, no hesitation worth recording. The system recognizes the order as valid and responds accordingly. That recognition is immediate, total. By the time the final acknowledgement is logged, reversal is no longer part of the process. The order has passed the point where it can be stopped. The environment in which the order travels is built to receive it. Everything about the structure favors continuity over interrupt. Authority is segmented into layers, each designed to narrow responsibility while expanding reach. Decisions are made at a distance from action, and action is carried out at a distance from consequence. This separation is not accidental. It is engineered. The system depends on clarity, and clarity is achieved by reducing choice. Each level in the chain is defined not by judgment, but by function. One layer confirms legitimacy, another translates timing, another allocates resources. None are expected to reinterpret intent. None are encouraged to question direction. The task is never to decide whether the order should exist, only to determine how it is to be implemented at that level. Movement within the hierarchy is vertical and singular. Information flows downward. Confirmation flows upward. Nothing moves laterally unless authorized. This creates efficiency. It also creates isolation. Within this structure, authority is impersonal. It is not tied to temperament or presence. It exists in forms, procedures, seals, and signatures. Individuals act as conduits. Their personal assessments are irrelevant to the process. What matters is accuracy of transmission. Routine reinforces this. Each day resembles the one before it. Orders arrive. Orders are executed. Reports are filed. Deviations are anomalies to be corrected, not signals to be explored. Over time, compliance becomes instinctive. The act of following instructions no longer feels like a choice. It feels like maintenance. The order enters this environment without friction. It matches the system's expectations perfectly. It does not demand improvisation. It does not require justification. It asks only for obedience, which the structure is designed to supply in abundance. At each level, the order is reframed into smaller components: timetable, assignments, allocations. Each component is stripped of context and redistributed. Those responsible for executing a fragment of the order are rarely aware of its entirety. They do not need to be. This fragmentation is considered a strength. It prevents confusion. It prevents contradiction. It ensures focus. Each participant understands their role precisely, and nothing beyond it. Questions, when they arise, are procedural rather than conceptual. A discrepancy in timing, a clarification of quantity, a confirmation of sequence. These are resolved quickly and documented thoroughly. No question challenges the premise of the order itself. That premise is assumed to be sound by virtue of its existence. The hierarchy enforces this assumption subtly, but consistently. To question an order is not framed as dissent, but as inefficiency. It delays progress. It complicates coordination. It introduces uncertainty into a system that measures success by predictability. Training reinforces these values. From the earliest stages, individuals are taught that discipline is reliability, that reliability is safety, that safety depends on uniform response. The system does not reward deviation, even when deviation is correct. It rewards adherence. As the order descends, it becomes embedded within schedules and routines that predate it. It is inserted into calendars already filled with obligations. Adjustments are made with minimal disruption. The appearance of normality is preserved. Those responsible for implementation are evaluated not on outcomes they cannot yet see, but on their ability to execute instructions precisely. Their performance is measured by compliance metrics, not by foresight. There is no mechanism to pause the process once it has begun. There is only the option to continue efficiently or inefficiently. The structure leaves no room for collective reconsideration. No single level possesses enough context to justify halting progress. Each sees only a portion of the whole, and that portion appears manageable, reasonable, routine. This is how the system protects itself, by distributing responsibility so widely that it cannot be grasped by any one individual. As the order settles into the lowest levels of command, it no longer appears as an extraordinary directive. It has been normalized by repetition. It has been validated by protocol. It has been absorbed into the machinery of routine operations. At this stage, obedience is no longer a conscious act. It is simply the expected response to an established signal. The structure remains intact, efficient, and confident, and within that confidence, the conditions for failure are already fixed. Execution begins exactly when it is scheduled to begin. No announcement marks the transition. There is no declaration that the order has entered its active phase. The shift is procedural, registered only in logs and synchronized watches. What changes is not behavior, but alignment. Movements that would have occurred anyway are now occurring in a prescribed sequence. Tasks are initiated according to plan. Each action corresponds to a line already reviewed, confirmed, and accepted. The order does not require interpretation at this stage. It has been reduced to steps. Those steps are followed. Coordination replaces discussion. Signals are exchanged briefly and precisely. Each signal has a predetermined meaning. There is no excess language. There is no room for ambiguity. The absence of commentary is intentional. Silence indicates correctness. Timing is emphasized above all else. The system values synchronization more than situational awareness. Actions taken too early or too late are considered errors, regardless of context. The schedule dictates movement. Reality is expected to keep pace. Those carrying out the order operate within narrow parameters. Their responsibilities are limited to execution. They do not possess the authority to alter sequence or delay progression. They are trained not to look for justification in the moment of action. Justification belongs to planning, which has already concluded. Compliance is visible in the precision of movement. Units reposition according to prearranged intervals. Resources are committed as allocated. Communication follows established channels, even when those channels slow the exchange of information. Deviations are noted, but not acted upon, unless they violate explicit instructions. The order assumes consistency. It presumes that conditions encountered will resemble conditions anticipated. When discrepancies appear, they are treated as temporary irregularities rather than indicators of structural flaw. The response is to maintain course. Reports move upward in standardized formats. They confirm progress without interpretation. Metrics are updated. Timelines are checked. Each report reinforces the impression that execution is proceeding as designed. No one pauses the process to evaluate emerging. There is no mechanism for pause built into the order. The absence of such a mechanism is not seen as a weakness. It is seen as discipline. At the operational level, adherence becomes a form of insulation. Those executing the order are protected from responsibility by its authority. Their role is defined narrowly and fulfilled completely. To exceed it would be improper. As execution continues, the order becomes self-sustaining. Each completed step justifies the next. Momentum replaces deliberation. The cost of stopping increases with every action taken. Reversal would require intervention from levels now disengaged from the immediate process. Communication remains controlled. Information that does not fit established reporting categories is delayed or omitted. This is not intentional suppression. It is a byproduct of form. The system only recognizes what it is designed to measure. The order progresses through its phases without interruption. Each phase is marked as complete. Each completion reduces the perceived need for oversight. Confidence grows not from understanding, but from consistency. Those involved focus on execution details small enough to manage. The larger structure remains abstract, distant, unquestioned. There is no space within the process for reflection. Reflection would disrupt timing. By the time the final elements of the order are set in motion, compliance has achieved totality. The system is fully engaged. All components are aligned toward the same directive. At this point, the order no longer requires enforcement. It is being carried out because there is nothing left to do but carry it out. The first indications appear quietly. They do not register as failure. They arrive as minor inconsistencies, small misalignments between expectation and observation, a delay measured in minutes, a report that arrives incomplete, a confirmation that requires repetition. None of these disrupt the process. They are absorbed. The order continues unchanged. Within the system, these inconsistencies are categorized as friction. Friction is anticipated. Procedures exist to manage it. Additional confirmations are requested. Adjustments are made within allowable limits. The core directive remains intact. Information moves upward, but it does so filtered through established formats. What cannot be quantified is difficult to transmit. What does not fit predefined categories is often deferred. The structure favors clarity over completeness. As conditions diverge further from those assumed by the order, the divergence is treated as external. The system does not consider the possibility that the order itself may be incompatible with reality. That premise is never examined. Execution continues according to schedule. Signals arrive that suggest increased resistance. Environmental factors behave unpredictably. Coordination becomes more complex. None of this triggers a change in directive. The order contains no provisions for reinterpretation. Its authority depends on consistency. Those responsible for local execution begin to encounter constraints not accounted for in planning. They respond by tightening adherence. Precision becomes more rigid. Flexibility is reduced in the name of control. The belief is that discipline will correct deviation. Reports reflect progress, but with increasing abstraction. Details are condensed. Anomalies are described in neutral terms. The language remains procedural. There is no vocabulary for alarm that does not also imply failure of command. The order advances into conditions it was not designed to address. Requests for clarification move upward through the chain. By the time they reach a level authorized to respond, they are no longer urgent. The timeline imposed by the order outpaces the system's ability to reassess. Responses, when they arrive, reaffirm existing instructions. The system interprets persistence as validation. The fact that the order remains active is taken as evidence of its correctness. Stopping would require justification stronger than any available signal. Conflicting data accumulates. Some indicators suggest progress, others suggest obstruction. The hierarchy resolves this by prioritizing the indicators it recognizes. Those align with the original plan. As execution continues, the gap between directive and environment widens. The system compensates by enforcing compliance more strictly. Deviations are corrected. Alternatives are dismissed as unauthorized. The order becomes increasingly detached from the conditions it governs. Despite this, there is no moment of collective recognition. Each level perceives the situation as manageable within its scope. Responsibility remains compartmentalized. No one possesses both the authority and the information necessary to alter. The order persists. By the time the consequences become unmistakable at the operational level, the mechanisms for change have already been bypassed. The process has advanced beyond the point where adaptation is possible without systemic disruption. The failure is no longer hypothetical. It is unfolding inside a system that has already committed to seeing the order through. The system reaches a state it is not designed to interpret. What unfolds is not sudden. It is the accumulation of earlier deviations, now converged. The structure does not recognize this convergence as a warning. It recognizes it as complexity. Complexity is managed by procedure. Execution continues under degraded conditions. Resources arrive where they are scheduled to arrive, not where timelines remain fixed, even as the environment accelerates beyond them. Coordination persists, but its effectiveness diminishes. Signals are sent and received, yet their relevance erodes. The order remains unchanged. As constraints tighten, the margin for error disappears. Actions that once compensated for minor discrepancies now amplify them. The system responds by enforcing stricter compliance. Discipline becomes rigidity. Precision becomes inertia. Units continue to move, commit, and reposition according to instructions that no longer correspond to circumstances. The order does not account for cumulative strain. It was never designed to. Communication channels become congested. Information arrives too late to be useful, or too fragmented to prompt action. Reports confirm activity, but not viability. The distinction between motion and progress collapses. Loss begins to register statistically before it registers operationally. Numbers increase. Assets diminish. The system records these changes without interpretation. They are logged as data points, not indicators of collapse. There is no central moment of failure. There is no single breakdown that can be isolated. The collapse is distributed, occurring simultaneously across multiple points, none of which possess the authority to halt the process. Attempts to stabilize the situation adhere to the same logic that caused the breakdown. Additional resources are committed in accordance with the original directive. This deepens exposure. The order expands its own consequence. The structure cannot reverse itself. To do so would require acknowledging that the directive itself is the source of failure. The system lacks a mechanism for that acknowledgement. As conditions deteriorate further, the distinction between execution and survival narrows, yet the language of the order remains unchanged. It continues to prescribe action without reference to outcome. Eventually, capacity is exceeded. Coordination fails not because of disobedience, but because there is nothing left to coordinate. Timelines become irrelevant. Signals go unanswered. The order continues to exist in documentation long after its practical authority has dissolved. What remains is the result of persistence without adaptation. The scale of loss is not framed as tragedy. It is recorded as outcome. When the process finally exhausts itself, it does so without resolution. There is no corrective action, no concluding directive. The order simply stops being actionable, not because it was rescinded, but because everything it depended on has been consumed. After the process ends, the structure remains. There is no formal conclusion to the order, no declaration that it has failed. It is simply no longer referenced in active transmissions. Its identifiers stop appearing in schedule. Its timelines are archived. The system absorbs its absence without remark. Records are completed. Reports are finalized using the same language that governed execution. Outcomes are described without emphasis. Loss is quantified, categorized, and filed. The data is accurate. It is also incomplete. The structure records what it is designed to record. No single point of responsibility is identified. The order moved through too many hands, across too many levels, to be contained by one explanation. Each participant fulfilled their role. Each confirmation was correct. Each procedure was followed. In this framework, failure does not indicate, it indicates completion. The hierarchy resumes its normal rhythm. New directives enter the system. Old ones are retired. The machinery does not pause to reflect on what has occurred. Reflection is not part of its function. Those who remain adjust to revised allocations. Units are reassigned. Resources are redistributed. The absence created by the collapse is managed administratively. Vacancies are noted. Replacements are scheduled. The order is discussed only in technical contexts. Lessons are framed narrowly. Adjustments are procedural. Language avoids implication. There is no reference to inevitability, only to efficiency. Documents circulate that acknowledge strain, delay, and loss, but they do so without narrative. Events are stripped of sequence and reduced to metrics. The structure does not remember causes. It remembers output. Over time, references to the order become historical. It is cited in footnote. It becomes an example, but not a warning. Its details are abstracted until it resembles a case study rather than an event. The system remains intact because it never admits vulnerability. To do so would compromise authority. Instead, it reaffirms process. It emphasizes compliance. It reinforces the same pathways that allowed the failure to unfold. New orders move through familiar channels. They are stamped, transmitted, acknowledged. The rhythm is unchanged. The procedures are identical. Those within the structure continue to operate as before, guided by the same assumptions. The belief persists that discipline prevents disaster, that clarity ensures control, that obedience guarantees order. The previous collapse does not alter it is treated as an anomaly, not as a consequence. Eventually, the order that failed is no longer mentioned at all. The system has no need to remember it, because the conditions that made it irreversible still exist.